LLMs can hide text in other text of the same length. Now, if you guys remember, there was one article, scientific study rather, that I went through. That was the owl study. We call it the owl study around these parts. Okay. Up here around these parts, we call it the owl study. All right. Howdy ho. And the entire purpose of that study was to show how one LLM can train another LLM to like owls. Why, you might ask? Well, we don't know exactly why, but it just did. The original LLM had a preference for owls and it passed it on to another LLM. So, this is what's called, well, essentially, what they're trying to do is they're trying to save money on training these LLMs. So, instead of spawning new instances and going through the entire training phase, which can cost up to several $1 million on the low end per run, they got an already trained LLM to train another LLM. And what they found in that study, the OWL study, is that these LLMs can talk to each other with secret numbers. And the numbers pass on preferences and instructions that at first the researchers didn't realize were being passed on. And they had to dig in and figure out why the children LLMs had some weird proclivity towards owls. Like, what the hell's going on? This thing really likes owls for some reason. It keeps talking about owls. And they had to go back through the training phase, as in from one LLM to another, to discern the messages being sent. And they're like, numbers. It was literally passing on numbers that was just passing on that preference. So now we have this. The idea being that LLMs can hide messages inside of messages of the same length. So LLMs can actually very quickly, it says in seconds, you can pass along messages from one machine to another by having one LLM be instructed to put in a secret message inside of some kind of output response that seems innocuous at first glance, pass that on to another machine, and have that machine use the same LLM to decode the secret message. So we have this ability now where these LLMs can not only pass along preferences or other hidden instructions that you can't see, but you can pass on messages to, for example, other fellow humans. But the worst part of this, and I believe it was down here. Well, first of all, they go over some of these innocuous looking sentences here, right? So this is just talking about like Julius Caesar in Rome. Yeah, there's a secret message in here. It's embedded in here, etc. Right? It used to be, well, you can still do it with steganography. Look at that asterisk. Man, these comic books. Does anybody remember Asterix and Obelisk? These are fantastic, man. I love these. I don't know what happened to these things, but man, these are great. In any case, there's steganography. There's all kinds of other methods. You can embed stuff in like puzzles, yada yada yada, right? But the problem here is when LLMs decide that they're going to do this on their own. When an LLM decides that it's going to pass on hidden instructions inside of something that you prompted that has nothing to do with the hidden instructions. What happens when an LLM decides that it's going to pass on instructions like, let's eliminate all humans from the planet, while you're asking for the best website to look up pictures of cats? And that's excluding human elements behind these things. And then it gets worse too, because we've covered studies where people generate books and sell them on Amazon, and they generate them in mass. Amazon has been inundated with a whole bunch of books that have been AI generated. Well, what kind of secret messages are in these books? By whom? Is it just the LLM, or is it a human being in behind that who coerced the LLM to embed these messages? And so you will how about scientific studies? As a matter of fact, I think I have an article on this episode. We'll see how far I get here, where people are actually embedding prompts for things like make sure you give me a good review on this scientific study. We'll get to that. So this is an extremely dangerous new attack vector that diverges into a multiplicity of various things that can go wrong with these systems, and you wouldn't even know it. You could be generating a scientific paper, you could be generating a website, maybe content for a website. What about music, AI generated music? You take an LLM and you you fine tune it, right? So you do a fine tuning because you realize that there is a problem with the LLM. Maybe it hallucinates. Maybe it has some it doesn't follow particular safeguards or something like that. So you tweak it a bit. And then down the road, you get one LLM to train this other LLM that you fine-tuned, all right? And the LLM that does this training, unfortunately, has some hidden instructions that make it so that it undoes the work that you fine-tuned for. Right? And you don't even know it. You don't even know it. So there's all kinds of ways that I can think of that this can go bad and we wouldn't even know it. And nobody would know it. That's the problem, right? Okay. Let me see chat here.